Humans have managed to be among nature's most dangerous predators since the very first day they existed. We don't have teeth like a lion, the speed of a cheetah, or the strength of a bear. We have no armor, no claws, but we have one weapon, our mind. And this mind has sometimes helped us survive, and sometimes led us into the darkest pages of history. If you don't want to miss these striking stories hidden in the shadows of history, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Since the dawn of time, humans have been able to overpower animals much larger and stronger than themselves. First, they hunted to feed themselves. Then they wore animal hides and made tools from bones. But as civilization advanced, hunting was no longer just for survival, it became a means for wealth and power. At this point, human creativity sometimes led to clever traps, and sometimes to unimaginable cruelty. In the early 1900s, the fashion for alligator skin exploded in America. Bags, belts, shoes, and wallets made from the leather became so popular that hunting alligators turned into a very profitable business. Animals like pumas and bears were difficult to hunt, and wolf pelts were not very valuable. But alligators were both valuable and abundant in the lakes, swamps, and rivers of America. The biggest problem hunters faced was that when an alligator was shot, it sank in the water. A gator shot in the water would usually sink to the bottom, making it impossible to retrieve. Therefore, it was essential to bring the alligator out of the water onto land. And here entered one of the most shameful methods in human history. At that time, especially in Florida and Louisiana, a horrific belief began to spread. Alligators were thought to love the scent and cries of black children. This rumor even made it into newspapers. In the 1910s, a report in the Washington Times claimed that a zookeeper used black children as bait to lure alligators during transportation. The marks of slavery had not yet faded. Children were taken from their families by force, tied around the waist with a rope, and left in the middle of a swamp. These tiny bodies, crying in fear, would lure alligators out of the water. As soon as the animal came ashore, hidden hunters would open fire. If the child survived, they were returned to their family, but in exchange for a $2 rental fee. However, sometimes the hunters were too late, and the alligator killed the child. In that case, the family was given the alligator's skin. This horrifying method continued for years. Photographs and postcards from that era were sold under the title alligator bait. One of the most famous was a photograph of 9 black children lined up side by side. That postcard sold 5,000 copies. In 1923, Time magazine wrote that in Chipley, Florida, black children were used as bait in alligator hunts. However, the truth of this story remains debated. Some historians claim it is nothing more than an urban legend, with written sources being exaggerated or biased. Others present photographs and news articles from the time as evidence that it really happened. A third view suggests that such practices may have occurred locally in some areas, but were not widespread. Regardless, this story remains a dark stain on America's racist past, and it reminds us that human intelligence is sometimes used not to conquer nature, but to inflict cruelty upon one another.